Yes, guys, welcome back to another stream, and it's another Monday morning talk, although it is in the afternoon. Monday afternoon talk. Hopefully, you guys are all well. Lots to discuss. Hopefully, you've all recovered from the large amount of watch-alongs completed this week. 5 watch-alongs I did this weekend, bro. Do you know that?
Wow.
I'm now actually over this weekend turned into a football expert. Ask me any question about any player in the world, and given I've done 5 watch-alongs, I now know the answer.
You're the man.
I'm the man. Guys, hopefully you're all are well. Make sure you drop a like on the stream. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well if you're new. And of course, make sure you go and subscribe to Nobbins. I've actually just added the thing to the title, so you can just go and subscribe and get him to 10k. But guys, a lot to talk about this morning, and I've not actually got your opinion on the whole Rodri thing. The main topic of conversation today, I want to talk about the Carabao Cup. But before we get on to that, take me through the Rodri situation for you, bro. We all know he was done. We all know he was an idiot. I don't think anyone out there has anything other to say than that. But the impact on the team, and we've got Newcastle coming up. They got Wolves away and then Arsenal away. They're the 3 that he's going to miss. I mean, how big of an impact do you see his red card having on the team?
I think the only game where it really matters is the Arsenal one. I don't think he was going to start the Newcastle game anyway. Rodri at the start of the season came out and said, I need my minutes to be managed. I need more rest and rotation to happen. Whatever you think of the Phillips situation, I think there is a world where you can have Kovacic and Nunes in that sort of in sort of like the double pivot, whatever you want to call it. So I think that would be absolutely fine at the Emirates. As I say, I can only really see the Emirates game being the big miss. Wolves away, it's not an easy game, but again, they are sort of more towards the bottom end of the table. So we're more than good enough to win without Rodri. I didn't expect him to start against Newcastle in the League Cup anyway. We'll get on to who maybe should play in the League Cup in a moment. But yeah, I think that maybe he just he was seeing that he saw the Red Star Belgrade game at home, and he was like, right, this is surely a game I'm going to be rested in. And no, he started. So maybe it was like, right, I'm just going to take matters into my own hands. The only way I'm going to get a rest is if I actually try to strangle the opposition. Maybe that's what's going through Rodri's head. I don't know. But for silver lining, he actually does get a little bit of rest now. He won't lose all sharpness because he'll probably play the Leipzig game in the Champions League. So I don't really see it being too much of an issue. I don't know if we're going to talk about Arsenal too much in this show, but they've lost Rice. They've potentially for the City game. They've obviously lost Partey. I don't think they're as good as they were last season anyway. So I still, to be honest, expect us to win the games without Rodri, as vital as he is to us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm actually sort of on you. I tweeted this out after the game. I said, I know we're all fuming, but if we get a win against Wolves and avoid loss against Arsenal, it could be a decent little rest for Rodri. I mean, you're right. I don't think that Rodri would have played in the game against Newcastle anyway, to be honest with you. Wolves, he would have played. But what I say about Wolves is, are we really saying that having no Rodri against relegation team Wolves or relegation sort of area Wolves is really going to stop us from winning the game? I can't see us coming away from that game going, if only we'd have had Rodri today, would have won that match. No, it'll be because of some poor defending, or it'll be because Haaland missed a bunch of chances. Not probably Rodri. I don't really see that being the issue. The Arsenal one really is the one that's key. However, obviously we don't know what's going on with Declan Rice. He obviously got subbed off yesterday. He could be out of the game as well. That'd be a big miss for Arsenal. So
yeah,
I actually think that if we get through these next 3 games, and not necessarily Newcastle for the reasons I'll come on to in a minute, if we can get through Wolves and Arsenal in decent health, I actually don't think this is the worst thing in the world. Because as you said, he probably expected to be rested against Red Star Belgrade, wasn't. So when was he going to get a rest? Newcastle, right? That's 1 game, you know what I mean? He probably needs a couple of matches to sort of rest and recover. So I actually don't really think it's a major issue, to be honest with you. I just hope that we get through the Wolves and Arsenal game. But it's obviously not the ideal situation in being suspended.
Sure.
But
yeah,
I guess if Pep was never going to rest him, maybe this was the only way, bro.
I think that had Nunes not hit the ground running as he has done, then it probably would have been a big issue. But Nunes has done that. Kovacic will be fit for the Arsenal game. So had we not brought in these new players, had they not had the impact in such a quick turnaround, then I would be a bit concerned. But as I say, Nunes looks so class in the games he has played so far. And if they were really tricky fixtures on paper, then I would be more concerned. But again, we should, whatever you think of Phillips, assuming he plays against Wolves, like Phillips and Nunes together in midfield, that should be enough to get the job done against Wolves. Losing in the same way that losing De Bruyne doesn't mean we turn into a shite team. Losing Rodri,
Facts.
I know how good he is, obviously best defensive midfielder in the world, etc. But we don't just turn into shit because Rodri's not playing for us. So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Guys, make sure you drop a like on the stream if you've not done so already. Let's get those likes past 50. Hit the thumbs up button and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I mean, you've spoken about Nunes there. You mentioned Phillips. I mean, I look at this Newcastle game coming up as a real sort of tester as to what midfield we go with against Wolves and Arsenal. Where's your sort of thoughts at with the midfield? Are you willing to give Phillips a chance, or do you think that you've seen enough from him? Because I thought Phillips did all right when he come on against Forest at the weekend. I didn't think he'd do too bad. Are you willing to give him a chance against Newcastle and then going into Wolves, or are you sticking with the Kovacic and Nunes?
Well, or just on the Forest game, yeah, I thought it was a tricky game for him to come on for. Obviously, we're down to 10 men. I thought he was fine. Wasn't brilliant, but yeah, I thought he was fine as well. Did a decent job. I think that even if like everyone was fit, I definitely would give Phillips a chance. I'm not willing to just throw him out yet. I think that we've seen for England those performances. There is a good player in there somewhere. We just see it in an England shirt more so than a City shirt. I also think that necessity is a thing as well. I don't think Kovacic is going to be fully fit for the Newcastle game. So I think Phillips has to play. Obviously, Nunes will play, but it'd be basically suicidal to play like a midfield like what box of like Nunes, Alvarez, Foden, and then I don't even know who, Rico Lewis potentially. But then you have to play Walker, and as we'll discuss, he's probably not going to play. So out of necessity, he's going to have to play against Newcastle. I think you're absolutely right. This is a massive test for him. If he can prove himself and have a decent performance against Newcastle, then maybe that puts the faith. Maybe that gives the faith to Pep. Right, okay, I'll give you another chance against Wolves, alongside Nunes or maybe Kovacic if he's fully fit. And then when we get to the Arsenal game, again, if he's put in two really good shifts, maybe that's when he goes, okay, actually, Kovacic maybe still isn't fully fit yet. Maybe I'll actually give you a run at the Emirates. But I'm not willing to sack him off entirely yet. He does need to improve, obviously. There are flaws there, but I think it would be silly to just entirely get rid of this Phillips experiment without actually giving at least one or maybe even two games in a row.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of like that. I said yesterday on the stream, if I'm Pep, I'm sitting him down and essentially setting the guy a challenge and saying, look, you're going to start against Newcastle, play well, and I'll consider you for Wolves. Play well against Wolves, I'll consider you for the Arsenal game at the Emirates, which is huge. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the quotes. I'll see if I can bring them up, but Phillips has been quoted about speaking about this week, because obviously this is a real I mean, this is, if you think
make
about
a break.
Yeah, this is what he was brought in for, though. Really, bro. Like this is exactly why he was brought in. He was brought in to cover us in situations where Rodri's not available, whether that be for injury, whether that be due to suspension, or whether that just be because he needs a rest. Let's have a look at some of the quotes then that he's been saying. Let me zoom in on this. So this is probably the biggest week or so in my Manchester City career so far. It's something I'm looking forward to and I'm ready for it, which is very sort of bullish, which I like to see. I'm not going to have just one season at Man City. Because I'm not playing. Say I've been here for a year and enjoyed it, but it's not for me. I've always seen players like Jack and Nathan as my inspiration. That the second season is always better at City. I want to try and break my way into the team, even though it's very difficult. I want to try and make a name for myself at Manchester City. That's the reason I came. I didn't just come here to sit on the bench and be happy with doing nothing. So fair fucks to the guy, but he's not an idiot. He knows this is make or break week. You said it, make or break. It is his make or break, because if he doesn't perform well in the games that he's going to get given, well, Rodri's got suspended. He ain't going to make it, So listen, I play him against Newcastle and see how he gets on, and hopefully he can do it. Because listen, there'd be nothing better than Calvin Phillips going from outcast at Manchester City, looking like he was going to leave. I mean, Pep Guardiola was clearly happy for him to go on loan, as they've obviously discussed this in the pre-match press conference a couple of games ago. But he said, no, I want to stay and fight for my position. We've seen that work before with other players. Zinchenko, for example, probably the most case in point. I hope it works for Phillips, but he's got to be quicker on the ball for me. when he gets on the ball, he's got to be quicker on the ball. The game against Forest was difficult because every time he got the ball, there was no one really in front of him because we had so many players. I still think he done well. But in other games where we've seen him, he doesn't move the ball quick enough. If he can move that ball quicker and move around the football pitch quicker, I think he's got a chance. But I hope, I've got my fingers crossed for him that it works out for him, bro, because it'd be great. It'd be a great story.
Yeah, definitely. And he's saying all the right things. Definitely. I like how he's, referenced, Grealish, Ake, players who have had not the best first season, but then, were amazing second season. But he's now got to do that talking on the pitch. He's now got to walk the walk. As I say, the words are great, but he's now got to demonstrate it. And I agree with your point on he is a bit too slow. I feel like Phillips is probably, let's take the Wolves game, for example, a game where we expect to have, 70% of the ball. Wolves probably not really going to press us that intensely. That's probably going to be a great game for Phillips to showcase what he can do. That in the Forest game, that is where he struggled when he didn't have that much time on the ball to dictate the play how he likes to do for England. So that is definitely something he needs to do because that's what Rodri is excellent at doing. You're being press resistant and thinking quickly, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's a big test. But look, I like the mentality. I like the words he's using. But as I say, he's just now got to demonstrate that and prove that he does deserve, 1, 2, 3 games in succession or whatever. Prove to Pep that he can be trusted because clearly, he was happy to send Phillips out on loan. Clearly, Pep at this stage doesn't trust him. So it's all about building that trust. And the only way you can do that for Pep is by showing it on the pitch. So that remains to be seen.
Yeah, look, I give him a chance. For me, I'd give him a chance against Newcastle. If he plays well, I'd consider him playing against Wolves. If he plays well there, I'd consider playing him against Arsenal. I'm not saying I would start him against Arsenal, but all I'm asking for, which I think is quite reasonable, the only thing I'm saying to Calvin Phillips is give me, as a manager, Pep Guardiola speaking, give me a decision to make for that Arsenal game. It may well be that you play really well against Newcastle and really well against Wolves, and for Arsenal, I go with Kovacic and Nunes. That might be the case. But give me a decision to make. Don't make it easy for me. Don't make it easy for all the fans, everyone in the chat, me, you, everyone on YouTube, everyone who supports Manchester City to go, yeah, he's not got a chance of starting against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Give us something to debate. When we go to the Emirates on that Saturday or Sunday, whatever, on that we're speaking about the game on the Friday night, give us that debate to be had. That's all I'm asking for Calvin Phillips. Big up to Condino said criminal suicidal to start Fatty Phillips against Arsenal. Well, obviously, you know what I mean? He's obviously not a fan of Calvin Phillips. Listen, like I say, for me, at this moment in time, I ain't starting Calvin Phillips against Arsenal, but I am starting him against Newcastle. And if he plays well there, I'd start him against Wolves. And then I'd consider it. But like I said, even if he plays well against Newcastle and Wolves, there's still a chance that I might not start him. I'm just asking him to give us that sort of debate. Right, I want to move it on to Wednesday night. Newcastle. Carabao Cup match, where obviously got us a few injuries, got a suspension. We've obviously got the situation with the Saudi Arabia coming up in December with the Club World Cup and how that could potentially clash with the Carabao Cup. Is there any point in fielding a strong team, winning the game, when it could get to the point in December that we have to lose anyway because we have to play our academy? Is there any point, bro? Should Manchester City throw the game on Wednesday? What's your views on this?
It's good question. I would be very surprised if Pep threw I'd be very surprised if he threw the game basically, on purpose by starting babies and children. Pep, we've seen in the past where as fans, it might be like a dead rubber in the Champions League group stage, like the last game or whatever. But he still plays quite a strong team. And it's the same thing with like the League Cup and FA Cup, but like, yeah, this would be the chance for, like 4 or 5 academy players to start because we're already through, or, it's a really early round of the League Cup against, League One opposition, in the FA Cup, League Cup, whatever. And he still plays a really strong team. And there's a very good reason for that is because even though we have a relatively small, very good, but very small squad, it's because Pep's very aware that he needs to be giving his senior players minutes to make them happy. Otherwise, you get a situation of like a Laporte, Cancelo, etc., where they aren't happy. So there are lots of players who could do with some minutes, like lots of fringe players. You think of obviously Ortega, but you think of Gomez, you think of Rico Lewis, you think of, I think, Oscar Bob. Grealish needs some fitness because he's only just come back from injury. I think there's only a couple of players who really need to be rested. And Pep's alluded to that. I think obviously Rodri, who has to be rested, Walker, Ruben Diaz, Haaland, I think all have to be rested. But outside of that, you can still construct a very strong starting 11 out of players who still need the minutes. As I say, Grealish needs minutes to bring back his sharpness. Foden, I think, is a player who's just going to get better and better with games. Calvin Phillips, as we've discussed. Nunes is a new signing. Ake didn't start against Forest. Rico Lewis hasn't started for a while. So you can still make a very strong starting 11, but also making a lot of changes in key areas. So, for example, give Walker and Diaz and Haaland the night off. Don't even have them on the bench. Pop loads of academy players on the bench. But as I say, you can still field a very strong City side, giving lots of players rests, but at the same time, giving these players minutes and to help increase their fitness and sharpness. As I say, Jack Grealish is a perfect example. He's only just come back from injury, played 5 minutes against Forest. He needs, if he wants to, be a starter and for like, let's say the Arsenal game, he needs some minutes now to get his fitness back up. So I don't think we're going to see sweeping changes of 5-6 academy players. I think Bob will start, but outside of that, I think it will be basically a full senior team, to be honest.
Well, another thing to consider is that we can't really do that anyway because the academy team play on Tuesday, tomorrow night.
Right, okay.
Against Barnsley in the Papa John's Trophy. By the way, guys, I'm doing a watch along for that, so make sure you join me for that tomorrow night, 7:45 kickoff. So if you take the academy players that we're going to play in the game against Barnsley up to Newcastle, then is that really good for them in terms of development? Putting them out there. I mean, we've seen it years ago with the Pellegrini when. We went
the Chelsea game,
the Chelsea game, and we had loads of it. In fact, they actually didn't do too bad. To be fair,
we went 1-1 at one point, I think.
Yeah, it was David Fapala won it, I think, who scored the equalising goal. But I don't know if we'll do that again. I think you're right. I think we can still put a strong team there whilst resting key players. I think obviously Ederson, the key ones for me, you sort of mentioned them: Ederson, Diaz, Walker, Haaland. I'd even potentially throw Alvarez into that mix as well, to be honest with you, bro, because he's so important to us at the moment. And then you can still field a very healthy squad. I think Foden can still start, you know what I mean? Because he's been in and out of the team and gets subbed off a little bit as well. So I think you can still look at Phil Foden as starting. Jeremy Doku can start. Grealish can start. I think the interesting one will be is who starts up top. Will we start Haaland? Maybe give them 45 minutes each. Are you going to bring Dixon in from the academy? Who will play false nine? Maybe play Foden in the pocket. I don't know. I think we can still put a very, very strong team out there. But yeah, for me, the answer to the question, should City throw the Carabao? I don't think we should. I think we should rest players. 100%. I think we should rest players. But I don't think we should be going there thinking we don't really want to be in this competition. I think if we should deal with that at the time it comes. If we get to the semi-final and we've got a clash between the Club World Cup and the semi-final of the Carabao Cup like Liverpool had, then we just deal with that at the time and what will be, will be. But I saw a couple of people have mentioned it in the chat. You don't want to be throwing trophies away. You know what I mean?
Definitely
because who knows what can happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I actually think, slight negative, I actually think we'll probably get beat just because there will be so wholesale changes. I don't think it'll be as smooth as maybe we would like. However, if Foden plays in the middle, behind the striker, and we do start an Alvarez or a Haaland, then who knows? Maybe we'll get the result. I think there's a big question mark as well over Newcastle. What do they want to do? They're obviously in the Champions League. Just got a great result last night against Sheffield United, 8-0, which is bizarre. But they've got some big games coming up in the league. They've got PSG next week, potentially without Mbappe. So they can really now potentially target that game as a winnable fixture now that Mbappe is not there. Are they going to field a strong team? Who knows? It's really difficult with Carabao Cup games, but listen, I think it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see Rico Lewis, Sergio Gomez potentially step into the side again. I think it'll be good. So, we're in for a good game, hopefully. Guys, make sure you drop a like on the stream if you've not done so already. Make sure you are subscribed to both myself and Nobbins. Links in the title. Dr. Forty, I did bring up this before, but he says this is it now for Phillips. He must perform well.
Definitely.
I agree. Let's turn our attention. You mentioned it before. Arsenal 2-2 yesterday, bro. Not particularly great result for them, that, to be honest. They're now 4 points behind Manchester City. Both teams have winnable games next weekend. City playing Wolves away. I think they're playing Bournemouth away. I think and then it's City versus Arsenal. I mean, if City and Arsenal both win next week, there'll be 4-point gap going to the Emirates. Arsenal need to win that. A draw's not good enough. I mean, that's what have you made of Arsenal, bro? Because I was just on the stream then with Saeed and that, and I was telling him I've watched every Arsenal game in the league this year. I didn't watch the Champions League game, but I watched every league game. I don't think they've played well once. I genuinely don't. I'm not saying that as bias. I'm not trying to say that to a rattle Arsenal fan. I'm telling you, as a truthful City fan, I do not think Arsenal have played well once in the league this year. What's your take been on Arsenal this season, bro?
Oh yeah, I agree with you, to be honest. Same with you. I've watched every single game aside from the PSV one, because I think that it was the United game on at the same time or something. That was the reason I couldn't watch it. But yeah, I've watched every single Premier League game. There's not really been one game where I've watched them and gone, yeah, that's a truly dominant performance by Arsenal, where they've created chance after chance and they've just absolutely battered the opposition. Every single game has had a question mark for me. The midfield balance doesn't seem to be there. I know there are like players out and that sort of thing, but this Havertz experiment is weird. I think losing Xhaka was a mistake, clearly. And in terms of, I was looking at like the big chances created in the Premier League yesterday, and from open play, I think Arsenal have only created like 7 or 8 big chances in 6 games, which is the 15th worst in the Premier League. So they're nowhere. If you think of like they were flying at this stage of the season last year, it just doesn't seem to be there. That they keep conceding multiple goals in multiple games. 2 against Fulham, 10 men Fulham, by the way. 2 against Spurs, 1 straight after they got back into the game and were winning. And at least last season, when they were conceding these like chances over and over again, at least they had like the goals and chances created for themselves to back themselves up. But it just doesn't seem to be clicking quite yet. And so I feel like Arteta's sort of in getting rid of Xhaka, bringing in this Havertz experiment, trying to bring in Vieira. It seems to have ruined the whole balance of the team, to be honest. And I know they had like a big injury to Timber. Partey's been out, whatever. But in terms of like their key players from last season, it's not like a City situation where, like we've been without De Bruyne, been without Stones, we've been without Grealish for large sections. And we've been able to cope with it a lot better. I think City will be better this season. I expect us to get, like mid 90 points. Arsenal had to improve significantly based on last season. And if anything, I think they've gone backwards. I think if you speak to Arsenal fans, they'll say that they've slightly improved. I personally don't see that. They'll point to possession. They'll point to field tilt and go, well, you look, we're dominating the games. And it's all well and good having possession, but if you're not doing anything with it, which they aren't, then it's irrelevant, to be honest. So they need to sort themselves out if they actually do want to challenge City.
Let me just tell you something there that kind of backs up what you're saying. This is coming from Lee, the Arsenal fan, not me. But Arsenal have scored 11 goals this year. He said 4 of the goals have been deflected and 3 were penalties. So it sort of backs up your point, and I completely agree. I think Arsenal, in between from their own penalty area up until the final third, look similar, if maybe not slightly better than last year. I think where they've at the moment, and of course we are still early days, where they have really, really dropped off is when they get that ball to the final third. Every time they get the ball to the final third, I just don't look like they're going to score a goal. They don't create chances. I mean, someone told me the other day. I said against Forest, you were lucky. Well, not lucky to win. I said Forest were unlucky to get beat against Arsenal. They got beat 2-1. Arsenal fan come in the chat and said Arsenal dominated them. Incorrect. You dominated possession, but dominating possession does not mean that you've dominated the team. Burnley dominated possession against Man United. They didn't dominate Man United and didn't create too many chances. They didn't score any goals. This is the problem with Arsenal. They're not creating no chances at the moment. I said in the summer they should have got a striker. I said they should have got another attacking winger to provide support for Saka. I don't know when people are going to start talking about this, but Saka's goal record in the last sort of 20 Premier League matches is really poor. It's actually, I think he's only scored like penalties and shit. Really poor. I don't know whether he needs a break because he's gassed out. He's playing far too much football. I mean,
like 86 games in a row or something mental.
Yeah, not good. That's not good for him. So I don't know. I think they've made the wrong signings. I said on the stream just then, for me, I just don't get the transfers that they've made this summer, bro. I don't understand it because if I was an Arsenal fan, right, you get to the end of last season, bro, You should have won the league. You bottled the league. That was your own fault that you didn't win the league. Like City did well to hunt them down, but ultimately it wasn't in our hands. You know what I mean, if they didn't bottle it against Liverpool, against Southampton, against West Ham, they would have won the league. Facts. So I'm getting to the end of last season, kind of happy at how good a season it's been, quite shocked at how good it's been. At the same time, disappointed that they didn't actually win the title and ready to go again. So what do? You want to make cast iron signings that are going to improve the team. That's what I would do. I would buy players that are 100% going to improve the team or squad. They then signed Kai Havertz for £65 million. What on earth are you doing there? You didn't sign another striker. I've said since Arsenal signed Gabriel Jesus, and I've been telling Arsenal fans for the last year, in my opinion, he's a better winger than he's a striker. Now, he had a really good start to the season last year, and they was all telling me that I was deluded. But I said at some point, you'll work out that he's a better winger than he's a striker. You've 100%. Now got Eddie Nketiah up front. I don't think he's a bad striker. He's not a Premier League title level striker, though. Let's just be real. I think he's okay. Saka, obviously, on the right-hand side, great, needs support, needs help. He can't be playing week in, week out for 90 minutes. That is going to kill him. And as an England fan, bro, I don't like that. I'm not saying it because I don't want Arsenal to play one of the best players. I'm saying it because for England, that's going to ruin him, playing him that much. So I would have signed probably a striker. I would have looked at Dusan at Juventus. I don't know how much you could potentially have got him from. I don't think it would have cost that much money, to be honest with you. I think you could. Do you reckon you could have got him for 60 mil, bro?
Something like that, yeah. Use the Havertz money, yeah.
And then you've got optionality. You've got Jesus and Eddie, who are smaller, lower centre of gravity, can get in the box, but you've also got Dusan, who you can throw up towards the top end. Games where you're struggling, just lump the ball in the penalty area. I would have probably signed another attacking wing player just to give me that extra support. And what I wouldn't have done is signed Kai Havertz, bro, for 65 million quid. I just don't understand the transfer business. And I said it at the start of the season. I just said it on that stream as well. I think Arteta might have signed his own P45, bro, because the signings that he's made this transfer window, I don't think Arsenal fans will forgive him at the end of the year. Because I wouldn't, bro. I wouldn't forgive him signing £65 million Kai Havertz because that is unacceptable. Early days, he might turn it around, but I mean, what have you made of the signings? I mean, am I waffling? I think I'm legit, man. I think I'm talking.
I think that signs play a part. Obviously, we touched on the injury to Timber. That is a big loss. But yeah, I think the Havertz signing has, and losing Xhaka as well. I think that's really important as well, because Xhaka was fantastic last season. Added lots of good balance to that midfield. Allowed Odegaard to do his, what he does best. That's just gone nowadays. I think when you add that to the fact that Arsenal aren't really, I don't think Arsenal are adapting quickly enough to the changing mentality teams have when they play them. So, for example, last season, no one expected Arsenal to play as well as they did. Therefore, when they came up against Arsenal, they were willing to, sort of go toe to toe against them, match them up, that sort of thing. It's very different against City because you know how good City are. You know that they're going to dominate you. So you just play defensive football, you low block. And what Arsenal are discovering this season is what City fans have been having to put up with for 5-6 years, where teams come up against you and they don't even. I mean, Spurs are a bit of an outlier, but they don't try to play football against you. All they want to do is defend, low block, and try to hit you on the counter. And we're seeing this season, and the statistics and the facts and figures prove that fact based on big chances created. Arsenal are struggling to break down low blocks, and they're struggling to break down really defensive units. When a team comes up against them and properly takes the game to them, look at PSV, that's when they can absolutely destroy them, to be honest, because Arsenal are very good. But as I say, teams this season now know how good Arsenal are. So they're not going to afford them that much space in the same way that they don't afford City that much space. The difference is City are very good at breaking down defensive units and low blocks. That, for me, is what Arteta's got to try to figure out. And if he doesn't do that quickly, because teams aren't going to change their mentality against Arsenal, they're just going to keep doing it because it's working. It's preventing them from creating chances. You look at Odegaard, for example. There's been a lot of debate about him this season. He was fantastic last season, but he doesn't have those penetrative through balls that you associate with, Bruno Fernandes or a Kevin De Bruyne or a Maddison. He's not that sort of player. And that's the sort of player they now need to unlock defenses. Maybe last season they didn't need to unlock defenses in the same way. And these signings, as you say, I don't think they really complement that change in play style that they're actually going to have to adopt. And they're sort of like they're a victim of their own success of last season. That makes sense. Them
Yeah, yeah.
being so good last season has made this a reality.
I agree. I agree. So the only thing that I don't get about it is, and I always say this, right, is why don't teams change their style against teams like Arsenal and City during the season? I mean, the case in point and the biggest example of this was Leicester. Leicester, when they won the league, they did the same thing for 38 matches. They sat back, they waited for you to push them, and then they just do obviously simplified, and I'm maybe slightly disrespectful, but effectively a long ball forward to Vardy, Mahrez, and they get you on the break. That's effectively how they won most of the matches. No one actually changes their style until the year after. I know they lost players and that, but no one actually changed. And this is something that Arsenal are now facing. When, like you said, when Arsenal get up to the final third, they lack ideas. I think Odegaard for me is more of a second striker. I think he's more of a second striker than a creative midfielder. Do you know what I mean? You look at Kevin De Bruyne. That's the difference between Kevin De Bruyne and Odegaard. Why he's clear is because Kevin De Bruyne can play both positions. Kevin De Bruyne can play striker, second striker, and creative midfielder. I don't think Odegaard is a creative midfielder. Now, that doesn't mean to say that he's never played a through ball in his life or he's not got a nice catalogue of assists, but you need the David Silvers, the Kevin De Bruyne's, even the Ozils, them type of players to really break down this defense. They get the ball forward, they get it to someone like Rice, and he's not going to break down the low block, is he, Declan Rice? So what's he doing? He's giving it to Martinelli or Saka or Trossard. They're being doubled up on, and it's just recycle. And you've seen it from early on in the season. Arsenal are struggling, and they need to find a way. And this is why I feel that if they would have got Dusan from Italy in the transfer window, they could have had more optionality. They could have put a couple of crosses in. Do you know what I mean? They can't do that now because you're not going to cross the ball to Jesus already, really, are you? You know what I mean? That's not going to be a starting sort of thing. So listen, I think that Arsenal, I agree. I think they've got worse. I think they've got worse this season, to be honest with you, bro. Which is wild, given that they have spent a lot of money.
Definitely. I mean, like, and also just like you think of like the points they've dropped. What was it in like the first 19 games last season? They dropped 7 points in the first 19 games because they got 50 points, didn't they? This season we've only played 6 games, then they've dropped 4. So, and if they lose against City, for example, then they'll have dropped in 8 games or 9 games what they dropped in 19 games last season. So, for me, there has been a regression.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Crazy. Liverpool are an interesting team, bro. And I can't really make my mind up about Liverpool, to be honest with you, bro. Because if I look at their attacking three, whatever three they usually put out, they've got options. I think their attacking players are possibly some of the best in the world in terms of a unit. Maybe like City's is probably better or whatever. But they're certainly top 3, top 4 attacks in the world. Darwin Nunes, Salah, Luis Diaz. They've obviously got Jota, who I really like. Gakpo is probably for me the worst out of the lot, but still a decent player to have on your bench and in depth. That can blow you away, as Newcastle found out. But defensively and in the midfield, I still don't think they've got enough to get through a full 38 game season. I think in a cup competition, I think they might have some success because they can just blow you away. It's a one-off game, but I just think throughout the 38 games, their attack won't get them out of every single match, and I think at some point they will fall victim to that. Have you made their start to the season, and do you think that they could be the main challenges for City this year?
Yeah, they have surprised me, to be fair. They've got, apart from Endo, who I don't know if he's been brought in to be a starter. They don't have an out and out defensive midfielder, which I on paper shouldn't really work. Although to be fair, it has been working in terms of like they've been getting the results. But I agree with you. I don't think there's enough steel in that midfield. I think there are too many question marks on the defense. Whatever you think of Trent as a forward player, he is at times a defensive liability. Lots of Liverpool fans are turning their back on Robertson. They're not really happy with him and how he's been performing recently. Question marks on Van Dijk post injury. Can he rekindle that form that he once had? Kanata's a good player. Obviously, Alisson is their jewel in the crown in that sort of back 4, back 5. But yeah, I agree that they will. I've got them to finish third. I still think Arsenal will finish second, as much as, I've just said that I think Arsenal have slightly regressed. I just don't think that. I've watched most Liverpool games this season. They have been good. They have been exciting, but I'm not saying they've been getting lucky, but they haven't really been dominant in too many games. Like, for example, I think it was against Wolves, was it? Against a better team, Liverpool, like 3-4 down in the first half, and that's it, because Wolves just couldn't finish their chances. Even against West Ham in sort of like the opening 45 minutes, you could make an argument that West Ham was slightly better than them, and it was because of a penalty they were able to get back into the game. So I think over the course of a season, I don't think that they'll be able to sustain this, to be honest. I think they'll finish third. I think they'll finish close to Arsenal, but I don't think that they have enough. I think maybe next season with another 2, maybe 3 additions to the squad, I think that will be a terrifying team. The front three is great, obviously. Midfield's nearly done. Defense needs a little bit of work. So as I say, another 2-3 signings, and they will be genuine title challengers. As I say, I just think not quite there now. I don't think they'll be able to sustain it without the Fabinho, a Rodri, a Rice, that sort of player. So I expect them to drop off, not absolutely, not to a devastating degree, but I don't think they're yet ready to properly challenge Pep City.
No, that's exactly where I'm at. So I ain't going to repeat too much of what you just said. Final bit before we wrap up. We have to have a bit of a laugh at Man United. I know they've won, bro. I know they've won, right? So they got the 3 points in the bag. But they are in one hell of a mess at the moment, aren't they? I mean, that was embarrassing what I witnessed on Saturday night. I mean, it's Saturday night football, 8 p.m. We're all watching it, and we're all hoping Vinny Company does some madness. But we're probably thinking to ourselves, United, you know what I mean? They're going to put on a little bit of a show, get 2, 3, 4-0. You know what I mean? Was that the most embarrassing performance you've ever seen? I mean, it was awful. I mean, I know they got the 3 points. I guess that's all that matters, really. But come on, there's more to football than just getting the 3 points, especially early days in the season. Performances are key. Performances are what give you hope. If you look at Arsenal, they've only dropped points in 2 games, and there were 2 draws. But it's the performances is why Arsenal fans are not fully believing that they're going to win the league. United at the moment just looks so poor. They've got no ideas. Defensively, look shaky. On the ball, they look shaky. They're playing counter-attacking football against newly promoted Burnley, who have yet to win a game. I mean, bro, talk to you, man. They're in a mess.
Yeah, I mean, when you're having to rely on a Johnny Evans clip onto a gorgeous Bruno Fernandes volley to beat a newly promoted side who City battered 3-0 and Spurs battered 5-1, it's pretty bleak, to be honest. United want to be as good as City. They want to be, as good as Spurs have been this season. And these are the sort of levels that we're talking about. As I say, City went to Burnley and dominated them. Spurs went to Burnley and over the course of the 90 dominated them. There was never really a question mark about that. United having to rely on a wonder pass from a player who hasn't been relevant for like 5 years, and a gorgeous volley to beat Burnley. It's just not a good situation. Add on that the Bayern Munich game where 4-3 is a very generous scoreline. To be honest, they were not, just like 1 goal worse than Bayern. It was definitely worse than that. So yeah, there were loads of issues at that club, off it and on it. We touched on Ten Hag last week. I believe you used the word fraud, which might not be too far away from the truth, to be honest. I don't really. I think if I was a United fan, the main issue for me would be I don't know what we're trying to do. That would be the main issue. I'd look at that side and go, right, what is the identity? I thought I knew what Ten Hag's philosophy was at Ajax, but you signed Onana, who's the idea to be a ball-playing keeper, and he's always launching it like long and losing the ball. I'm assuming that's not Onana's fault. I'm assuming it's because Ten Hag's telling him to do that. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the Rashford question. People going, he's not running. That's probably an instruction from Ten Hag. He's probably not just a lazy player naturally. So yeah, I would question the strategy. I would question the philosophy. As I say, I would just like a style of play. Spurs, Ange has come in and he's had a pre-season, and from day one, from game one, you could, this is how he wants to set up his team. As a fan, I can watch this and I can figure out what he's trying to do. I can't tell you what Ten Hag is trying to do. And I'm not having that, oh, he's had loads of injuries and all these issues. Like, no, you should still be able to have a philosophy. Even when Klopp came in first season, sometimes got battered, but you could tell what he was trying to do. Pep first season wasn't great. You could tell what he was trying to do. I don't know what Ten Hag's philosophy at Manchester United is, because it's not what he did at Ajax. It's almost a glorified Solskjaer way of playing, to be honest. You touched on like the counter-attack philosophy, which is fine. There's nothing wrong playing on the counter-attack, but don't come in to a club and stuff like have these illusions of, oh, we're going to play and this like beautiful, glorious, playing out for the back style of play, and then just try to hit players on the counter with your pacey forwards. So yeah, if I was a United fan, and I know lots of United fans IRL, I would be very disheartened, not just at the Burnley performance, 3 points, whatever. But as I say, there is no clear identity for me at that club.
Yeah, but bro, so this is my question on this, right? So Ten Hag, in my opinion, don't want to play his style of football because I don't think he feels he's got the players to play that style of football. But the problem is then, is he waiting for the perfect 11? Is he waiting for the perfect 11 or the perfect squad? Because he's never going to get the perfect squad. He's never going to get the perfect squad. And if he does, it'll take too long. And by the time he's amassing it, he'll be fired because United aren't going to wait 5 years. They're not going to wait 5 years for Ten Hag to amass this perfect team, this perfect squad before he starts playing this brand of football. I think he looks at the players and goes, these players are suited to playing counter-attacking football. Great, but you're not. You're not, as a coach, you're not a counter-attacking manager. Your manager wants to get the players on a ball playing. I think that what he should have done is done what you just said, what Pep done, what Klopp done. When they come in, we had Kolarov at centre-half, mate. You know what I mean? Like, Pep didn't look at our team and go, oh, these are all great players who can all play my brand of football. We had Zabaleta playing in a mad position. We had Kolarov playing at centre-back. We didn't have the team to play. What he did is he made a couple of big statements with the Joe Hart situation, and there was rumours of a bit of a falling out with Aguero because Aguero wasn't fully receptive to his ideas. But what he did is he implemented a plan, and then he got better, and the team got better, and he brought players in, and then they come into that system. My question is to you is, can Ten Hag change it now? Because if I'm a player, if I'm Casemiro or I'm Bruno Fernandes, and tomorrow Ten Hag comes into training, or today Ten Hag comes into training and goes, right, lads, it's been 14 months. I've decided what we've been doing for 14 months, playing this counter-attacking football isn't working. We're going to do my brand of football. We're going to start playing out from the back. I'm just, honestly, if I'm a player, I'm just thinking, fucking what? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? We're going to start playing your brand of football. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. There's rumours of fractures in the dressing room. Saeed was then saying apparently 7 to 9 players support Sancho over the manager. Right. That isn't healthy. I thought he made a massive, massive, massive mistake with the Sancho situation. I actually felt, giving credit, Ronaldo, I thought he handled it very, very well. But Sancho, I think he's handled it horrendously. To come out and say that about Sancho, first of all, you got to be brave to do that to Sancho, because if you know anything about Sancho's past and his history, you know that he's probably not going to take those sort of comments lying down. He's going to fire back. And especially for me, you especially don't do it after a loss, bro. You do it in a position of power. I see some United fans saying, what you want about? Pep did it with Cancelo. Yeah, because Cancelo had no fan, mate. Every single City fan, the board, the owner, everyone at the club was backing Pep Guardiola. So Cancelo couldn't win. There is no player, not even Bernardo Silva, not even Ruben Diaz is backing Cancelo. They're all backing the manager, because if they did back Cancelo, City fans would find out and they'd be out in the rear. He did it from a position of power. Ten Hag does not have a position of power at Manchester United, and he did it after a loss. So all it looked like to fans around the world, not even United fans, to everyone, that hang on a minute, you've just lost a game, and now you're having a pop at Sancho, who's not even played. I think he's handled that badly. I think that if Ten Hag doesn't turn it around quickly, I think it's going to end badly, bro. I think he'll end up with the sack, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say, like, and also add on to that, all these leaks that have been coming out and stuff like the past week or so. Players apparently not being happy with the tactics. There was even that whole, to do about like Ten Hag's agency having too much power and control over signings, and like, United members of staff raising those concerns to the CEO. Um, and a leak isn't a mistake, an accident. A leak is a tactical thing that you do at a club in order to get your message out first. So in the way you want to do it. So it's almost as if maybe it's early days, but it's almost as if like the club are sort of trying to position themselves in a way where they can almost half justify trying to get the fans to sort of turn on Ten Hag and be like, right, well, we had to sack him because look, his agent is getting too involved in the club and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if that's like a strategy by them to, as I say, make that an easier pill to swallow when it does eventually come to sacking him. I think it is only a matter of time, unless something drastic happens. And I don't think Ten Hag should be sacked because I don't see who else you could get who would immediately come in and do a better job. You've signed all these players that he wanted, from like he's worked with before in the Dutch league or whatever. For me, it doesn't make sense to get rid of him, but he does need to evolve as a manager. He needs to improve in respect of his like in-game decisions, especially. And I don't even know like what you do in respect of like the players that are just leaking stuff continually. There's clearly a fringe. I mean, you touched on it. You said that loads of players have sided with Sancho, so he's got to try to win them back. I don't know how you do that though. Maybe there's a point of no return. But what you don't do is sign a ball-playing keeper to then not play ball-playing football. I'm losing patience and sympathy with him, to be honest, because as I touched on before, I don't know what the philosophy is. There are injuries, sure, whatever, but he has signed so many of his own players, and you could nearly build a full starting 11 of just Ten Hag signings or players he's inherited who we know to be very good. So, I think that for me, it's only a matter of time before he's sacked. I don't think he should be sacked. I think he should be given the rest of the season, see what happens, and then you go into another transfer window. But this is a club who aren't notorious for making the correct decisions one way or the other. So
there's
it
no
wouldn't
leadership at
surprise
the
me.
top, bro. There's no leadership at the top. I mean, I'm not being funny. Yeah, I said I have a thing. If you're a manager, right, and you go into a new club and a new league, I don't think you should sign players from your old club and your old league. I just think it's bad. For me, it just gives me sort of like a bad. Like, do you not watch any other leagues? Like as a manager, are you just going like? So when he signed Malacia, when he signed Anthony, I was straight away like, red flags, mate. I don't know. It might just be arse. I might chat him shit. But for me, that's how I felt because I just don't get it. He spent 80, 90 million on Anthony, yeah. After last season, United should have said to Ten Hag, you're not making another signing. You're not making another signing, mate. You know what I mean? And go, oh, yeah, but LB signed Casemiro. Give over. Like you needed to be an expert on football to know that Casemiro was going to be a decent signing for them last year, which, by the way, is now kind of looking a bit sketchy because he's not had the greatest start to the season. That cost him 60 million back, and he's contracted for another 4 years, so he better fucking fix up his game quickly. And then again, yeah, but LB they signed Onana. Again, one of the best top 5, top 6 goalkeepers at playing out from the back with the ball. Again, don't talk to me about that. He signed Mount over Maddison, which I think is an interesting signing. Maddison was cheaper than Mount, and in my opinion, is a better player than Mount. I would have been at least a little bit more exciting and help bring a better style of football. Imagine him and Bruno in the sort of attacking positions with Casemiro, maybe have an inverted player behind him. I don't know. I just think his signings have been trash. I mean, you got to analyse his whole time. Signings have been poor. Style of football's been poor. Style of football is still poor and is constantly underperforming and haven't got on to a good start. Last year, I just feel that he was given far too much credit. Far too much credit. I'm happy to say, and I say this all the time, I'm happy to give him the thumbs up for winning the Carabao Cup and getting in the top 4. At the same time, I'm allowed to say in a normal season, he wouldn't have finished top 4 because Chelsea finished in the bottom half of the table and Liverpool flopped it. Also, Tottenham completely capitulated at the end of the season. They wouldn't have finished in the top 4 in the normal season. But granted, they did. You won the Carabao Cup. I know you can't pick the draws, but you were very fortunate with the run. And then you got to the final and you're actually the second best team against Newcastle, but you won it. Again, congratulations, you won it. I'm not taking anything away. I'm just saying, for me, I can also caveat that. And then again, with the FA Cup, you didn't play no one until the semi-final, got won on penalties against Brighton and then lost against City. So I can on one hand say, He done good yet last year to get in the top 4 and to win the Carabao Cup and get to a final of FA Cup. Of course, I'm not going to take it all away, but I'm also going to say you were very fortunate in multiple aspects of those. You also got beat 7-0 off Liverpool, and you also conceded 6 against City in a game as well. And now this season, we're still failing to see a good style of football, and it ain't looking good, bruv. So I think he needs to turn it around quickly. Let's just have a quick look at United's fixtures before we wrap up.
Just on the thing you said then about, Ten Hag coming in basically wanting to recreate his Ajax team, it just sort of reminded me of, when David Moyes went to United and he was desperate to get like Fellaini and Leighton Baines. Maybe that's a really extreme comparison, but
I don't think it is an extreme comparison though, bro. I don't think it is. I think managers do that because they're weak. I think those managers are weak managers because what they want, right? They know what's happening is shit. I'm getting a big jump here in football club. I mean, Ajax are no small club, right? They're a huge football club, but going from Ajax to Manchester United, especially in this day and era, maybe 20, 30 years ago, it might be different. But now, going from Ajax to Manchester United, going from Everton to Manchester United, I think they're weak. I think they're scared. So what do they want to do? They want to bring players in who can come in. They know who they are. They can, have some support. Maybe tell that player can tell the players that are already there. Oh yeah, this manager's sick. I worked with him last year. Mega. I think it's weak. What you should do is, unless the signing is legit signing because he's mint and it's the right signing for the football club. But Leighton Baines was never the right signing for. I know they never actually signed him, but it was never the right signing for United. Fellaini was never the right signing for Man United. Anthony was never the right signing for Man United. And let's be honest, Manassia's not. People say Manassia's done all right for United. It's not United level. Give over. You know what I mean? They do it because they want players in and around them who they've worked with before because it's easier. It's easier. And I just think it's weak management. Fixtures, just before we wrap up, United have got Palace in the Carabao Cup. They then got Palace at home in the league. Galatasaray at home, Brentford at home, Sheffield United away. And then they've got Copenhagen at home. So they do have...
They should win. I think they've got to win all those games.
That's not going to happen, bro.
It's not gonna happen. But if I'm a United fan, I'm looking at that and going, I want a win in every single one of those games.
Yeah, no, I agree. They need to win them all. They ain't gonna. I'd be very, very surprised, given how they've started the season, if they win even 4 of them games. To be honest with you, I think they're in the mud. I think they're in the mud. But listen, it's been a good morning talk, afternoon talk. Thank you for joining me again, bro. I enjoyed the show.
Thank you, mate.
We'll be back again next week, which of course will be a big one, really, because we'll know whether or not we're in the next round of the Carabao Cup, and we'll be building up to a huge game at the Emirates. Hopefully, City get the win against Wolves at the weekend, so we can go into it with a little bit of positivity. But yeah, it'll be a big show. So make sure you join us. Hopefully I'll bring it back to 11 o'clock next Monday. If not, it'll be a bit one. But we'll do another show next week if Nobbins is available. Make sure you go and subscribe to him as well. The link is in the title. You can just go click on it and subscribe, get into 10K. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll probably be back later on with another stream in the evening. Don't forget that tomorrow it is the huge Papa John's. The Papa John's returns, guys. It is Manchester City's academy against Barnsley. City could do with a win there. And then obviously on Wednesday is Newcastle. But I'm going to the game. Might do a match day vlog. Might not. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, listen, thank you very much for joining me, bro. Guys, thanks for joining me. Make sure you drop a like on the stream. Subscribe to the channel as well if you're new. And I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.